Hello, everyone, and thank you very much. It's really a pleasure for me to be back here and also to be back here with two industry professionals that I've worked personally with. I met Tina first back in the 90s when we were both starting our careers as translators and subtitlers in the UK. We were working for many of the same companies, though we didn't meet until I got an in-house job in one of those companies. And to me back then, Tina was that kind of freelancer that all the project managers love because she does an excellent job, always delivers on time, doesn't matter how hard, nothing that she can't do, and she's a pleasure to work with. And she's been doing all that for all of these years. Apart from being a veteran in subtitling, she also has a lot of training experience, teaching experience. She's been teaching audiovisual localization and Norwegian at several universities and also for companies. And I could say that training is part of her DNA because apart from translating the latest blockbusters, she also is the lead for Norwegian at the major language service providers, and she trains other subtitlers, and she also offers her services as a consultant, primarily to do with training and workflows for subtitling. After having been in the market for 30 years, she's also the vice president for the Norwegian Audiovisual Translators Association, NAVIO, and on the AVT Council, the Pan-European Association of Translators working in the audiovisual field. So she's seen it all in the industry, so I couldn't have thought of a person better to represent the views of freelancers in this debate. And I also have with me Belén Aguyo Garcia, who I've also had the pleasure to work with, primarily at the steering committee of the Languages and the Media Conference, which is the biggest conference in media localization. It's actually taking place in Budapest next week. And Belén and I are working on the conference program. She's a gamer at heart, an accessibility advocate. She has a PhD in audiovisual translation and over a decade of experience in multimedia, in the multimedia market in general. And in this time, she's actually worn many different hats, working for LSPs, technology and consultancy firms. She's been a translator. She's worked in program and project management, in language technology deployment, as a customer success manager, a vendor manager, a community builder. She has teaching experience. She has taught gaming and media localization at several universities. And her two most recent roles are intricately related to technology because she's been the AI strategist at Deluxe, and now she leads technological innovation and integration at Terra. And knowing Belén, she's very passionate about everything she does. She's an eternal optimist, so I'm very, very much looking forward to hearing her views on how things are going in our market. Thank you very much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Thank you so much, Jota, for the invite, and super happy to be here with you.
Thank you for that introduction. Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you. So we don't have a lot of time, so we'll dive right in. I don't think anyone will disagree if we say that we are in a transformative phase of our industry because of AI. It is the trend that trumps all trends. And it has created a lot of controversy between language service providers and translators who seem to be standing on opposite sides as regards this technology. Translators report it as a negative trend primarily. We saw that in the Ellis survey, but LSPs are quickly embracing it. So why this difference is what I wanted you to ask, and maybe Tina can start.
It's a lot of change. It's a lot of uncertainty for us because we don't really know what tomorrow brings. I'm a subtitler, so I'm slightly different to anyone translating text translation. I can't yet see that AI will be translating films just yet. But I can see that our work is changing. And yeah, I need to know more, I think, about the future.
Okay, Thank you. And Belen?
Sure. So from an LSP side, I wouldn't say that we are super positive about AI, but we have to be there at the forefront of innovation because it's our duty as language service providers. We need to understand how the technology works. We need to understand how it impacts our work. We need to understand how to implement it, and so on and so forth. So it's our duty, basically. If we are positive or negative, I think it will be up to more individuals, but we have to be there because it's already here and we need to integrate it. One thing I want to mention is that I personally feel that in the past, LSPs and even translators were more in control on how we decided to use language technology. So when TMs were invented or TMS CAT tools and so on and so forth, there was a period of time, great period of time, where translators could use TMs and no one knew, maybe, and like they were actually profiting from the technology, and the same for LSPs. Also, we had a longer period to adapt to the new technology, the TMs, and also the neural machine translation, even if it was disruptive in 2017 with Google MT. But there was an adaptation period because we were the only ones really worried about it in our industry, right? But now with Gen AI, LLMs, whatever we want to call the next wave of technological advancements, it has become mainstream. So that means that a lot of people who are not language experts are talking about it because they've seen it in a demo and, oh my goodness, the dubbing is amazing and it's all done by a machine. Or, you know, LLMs can create content from scratch, how cool. And so there are many people who are not experts talking about language technology, and they are executives at companies or CEOs. I'm not saying they are ignorant or anything like that, but they are curious about this technology and they are asking, why aren't we leveraging this technology to make things faster and cheaper? And so instead of us being in control now, it's more the executives or the companies buying the localization services coming to us and saying, guys, we need to be using this because it's a technology that will solve our challenges and so on and so forth. So it's been imposed on us in a way. And I feel like the technology is not fully matured. So we are being forced to use a technology that still doesn't fit all the needs that we need in our industry, which is challenging. It's exciting, and of course it opens doors to many more things, but it's also challenging. And I feel, that it's positive and negative at the same time.
So you feel it is imposed on you as well in a sense, and translators feel the same, right? Why don't you push a little bit back when clients are asking you to implement it?
That's a good question, because the hype is there. So we've been talking about the hype a lot. And again, people see what the technology can do in a specific demo, and they are amazed because the technology can do amazing things. But when you try to operationalize that, it's not so easy. And it depends on the language combination, it depends on the content type, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I can go and tell them, you know, this doesn't work perfectly well, but what Bruno, I don't think Bruno is here now, but what he said in the opening panel is that many companies are investing millions of dollars in this technology, and they want to see an ROI. So they don't care that the technology is not there yet. It's like, I put my money here, now I want it to work, so you language experts figure it out, and you're the experts, so the ball is on your roof, which is fascinating and interesting. Especially, I mean, I am a pro-technology person, but I am also a pro-common sense person. So I feel like in this debate, there needs to be a little bit more of common sense and data.
Yeah, and for us translators, we've been told now for years that you're going to lose your job and we can do this job without you. That's a difficult situation to be in, and it's very difficult to fight back as an individual. And I think generally subtitlers are very good with technology. We need it to be able to subtitle. So we're definitely not against technology as such, but we want to sort of continue doing this, and I think we're doing a good job at the moment. And yeah, show me a machine that can do it better. I haven't seen it yet.
Thank you both. I was thinking we could take a step back and talk a little bit about what is the value proposition that translators and language service providers bring to the market. Actually, I put our abstract in ChatGPT and asked ChatGPT what it thinks I should be asking you in this panel, and it came up with this question. What unique value do freelance translators bring to the table in an era where automation is on the rise? How can LSPs better leverage this? Which is a great question, but even better, what is the value proposition of both parties? So I would like to ask you this question and start with Belen, but at the same time, could we run the first poll? Because I would like to see what the audience thinks about the role of LSPs. Do LSPs have an active and positive role in the translation market? Because what I keep hearing a lot from translators is that the LSPs are the bad guys, right? So, Belen, over to you.
I won't be offended if you say no in this question, so please be honest. So, yeah, I think when I think about the value proposition, I think we have two clients, the actual localization buyers, but then also our vendors, our translators, no? So I will try to talk about the value proposition for these two stakeholders. When it comes to the localization buyers, for me, three main points maybe. The first one is removing complexity, so things might seem very difficult and you need to localize all this content into all these languages in this very crazy timeline, and you have all these requirements, and we help remove that complexity. The other thing, I think we bring peace of mind to localization buyers, so you have one trusted vendor or multiple trusted vendors that you can rely, that will deliver what you want, with the quality that you want, with the security measures, and so on and so forth. Another thing that I've been seeing more and more is that localization buyers want LSPs to be more proactive and also be, again, a trusted partner to I don't like the word educate, but to share insights, to be more proactive in, okay, we can innovate here, we can do this better, not just be, okay, we will do your translations or whatever service you're buying from us, but be more proactive and becoming more partners instead of just vendors. So I think those are three main things. Then, of course, there is the general theory of the translation company book by Renato and Tucker, which were my bosses in the past, which I think also is very good at capturing the value that the LSPs bring, which is project management, vendor management, quality management, and actually be there to meet the clients, so the sales part, to understand what the clients want and so on and so forth. So I think that's something that is important. When it comes to freelancers, and Tina will tell me what she thinks about the value that I think we bring to freelancers is also that we also remove complexity from the business aspects of translation, right? So if you are a translator and you don't like the business aspect of it, meaning you don't like to go there and like find clients and so on and so forth, you can rely on LSPs to find those clients for you, to negotiate, to do all the business aspects of the work, and give you the task that you enjoy. Maybe some translators prefer to just translate and don't worry about the business aspect of it. So I think that's a value that we bring to the freelance community. Also, the responsibility part. So if something goes wrong in a translation in a project or something like that, the ultimate responsible is the LSP. Of course, there are a little bit like more mean LSPs that will then go to the translators and like, I don't know how they would manage that, but that's not how I would do it. And you know, you are the ultimate responsible. So that's something good. And maybe also about the steady workload. So it's easier usually to get a steady workload from an LSP than from direct clients, depending on how you manage your business and how, in which moment of your career you are. So maybe this is a generalization, but I feel like it's easier in general to get a steady workload from an LSP than from direct clients. So I don't know if Tina agrees, but that's my reply.
That's a lot of different arguments and great ones, and also in terms of the responsibility, it's also the security aspect, I suppose, that LSPs bring. Tina?
Well, if you're working directly for a client, you don't give away any of the money to the LSP, so that's one thing. But I do see all your points, and when you subtitle, like I do, high-profile feature films and series, there's the security aspect as well, which is very important. And I see you couldn't do that into 40 languages dealing with each subtitler. So we need the LSPs for that. But before, well, up until recently, I would have said that without us, you don't have a product. That's
You say something different now?
Well, there is a product. I'm not calling it quality, but yeah, you can sell something. But I think you still need us, and it was quite positive start to the conference yesterday, talking about language experts and finding the people that you can trust with the language, not just. Trust you to tell you that it's correct. So I do think there's a place for us in cooperation with the LSPs there.
Definitely. And things are changing a little bit with technology, but of course the main change right now is post-editing. It's been referred to. The early survey actually states that next year the majority of professional translation work will be machine translation will be used, so machine translation post-editing or just machine translation. So the question is, where does that leave translators and what is their role in this new paradigm? Will there just be post-editors? And we all know that most translators generally don't like post-editing. They speak against it. And sometimes they also talk about it being poorly compensated. So how do you see this aspect? What do you have to say about post-editing, and how do you see the future of localization in terms of human involvement versus machine processes? Tina?
I don't want to be a post-editor. I was hoping that I had another 15 years. I don't think so. But maybe we can create different roles. But also, please ask us, when you do make the technology, when you create it, ask us what would work, what would be helpful, and what kind of input can we give to make things better. It's also our working conditions.
Is it rates? Because a lot of people talk about rates with respect to post-editing.
The rates vary a lot. And of course, when they introduce post-editing, they will say, your rates will go down because you'll be working 25% faster, so your rates will go down with 25%. Can I ask you something? Because in media localization, at least, I always got the feeling there was a rates issue before machine translation came along. Is it worse now, or is it just more of the same? We've had years and years of rates just going down already, and then we get this on top. That's the problem.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you're worried that this is not making the profession sustainable then. What do you think, Belen?
Yeah, that goes back to... So there are many things here to take into account, because that goes back, that's also related with the quality question, right? So the thing is that if customers or we expect to get the exact same level of quality with translation from scratch and post-editing workflows, which is what's been sold for years already in the localization industry, usually people will prefer the cheaper option because you're telling them that you're getting the same quality, so why would I pay more? So that's a problem. Then another thing that we were discussing is, because quality is this vague concept that, okay, as linguists, we might understand the nuances of a high quality translation, but executive in whatever company or even an end user, will they see the difference? And how can we measure that difference and actually explain to people why it is more important to, have a high quality translation for a specific content type and so on and so forth. So it's difficult to explain to explain that to people. And when it comes to post-editing, I'm linking two topics, which is post-editing with quality, but I feel it's related. If we are telling people that with post-editing you're getting the same deliverable, then that's the future, but not even the future, it's the present of the industry. Because if you see data right now, I read a CSA report recently, you see how machine translation post-editing services go up, and human translation goes down, down, down. So we're already there. We created this situation because it was kind of a way to survive. Like customers are asking to decrease rates, they want to do more with less budget, and so on and so forth. So LSPs were, okay, I can do this with post-editing, and then we go to translators and say, you know, now I have to do this faster and cheaper, so you have to. So we put ourselves in a situation that it's difficult to come out from it, and it goes also down to the topic of commoditization. Like translation services are perceived as a commodity these days. They are not perceived as a complex workflow or as an added value. Is like something I need to have, and actually it's commoditized because there is technology to go with it, to do it. So we put ourselves in a difficult position in general, and that's also for LSPs. And I think we do have the same goals. Like we want to continue doing what we do, but.
So a lot of LSPs talk about good enough quality. I mean, fit for purpose, good enough. It was mentioned before as well. I wonder whether this good enough is good enough for the viewers as well. What do the viewers or the users of translation need? And should we just, you said we don't have metrics to measure the success. Isn't the metric, are the viewers happy? Is it good enough to make them happy, to have the viewers log in on Netflix, for instance?
But you cannot ask the viewer to rate how good is I mean, if they are happy, maybe you put machine translation subtitles and they are happy. Maybe that could be an outcome. I don't know, as long as they understand what's more or less what's being said. Is that good enough? I think, and in a way, from a capitalism perspective, if people keep paying for something, even if the translations are not great, but they are average, unfortunately, that would be considered as a success, fortunately or unfortunately. But from a human and philosophical perspective, do we need to curate our languages? Do we need to worry about the evolution of our languages and so on and so forth? Yes, but does that match with the expectations of our society? I don't know.
Well, to me, it needs to be better than just good enough. And who's to decide if it's good enough? Are you asking the language experts here? Do we get to have a say in it? So that's one thing. And also, it's not just about doing a job and a grind and doing as many minutes as you can every day. It's also, most of my colleagues love this job and they do it because they're passionate about language, and we see ourselves as custodians of language. And there was research done, I think it was in Norway quite a few years back, that said that people read Norwegians read the equivalent of 17 novels a year in subtitles. And that's a lot of text. Exactly. And if that text is all rubbish, what is that doing to our youngsters who are learning to read? What's that doing to people that are trying to learn your language? What's it doing to all the viewers? So in Norway now, the Naviomai Association, we have decided to create this portal where viewers can complain, or they can give good comments as well. We're open for that. So we're hoping to have that up and running before Christmas. So if we get enough data, we will be able to say that people switch off when the subtitles are really bad, or this is what the viewers don't like, this is what they do like. So hopefully we'll get lots and lots of data.
We do need a lot of data, that is true. Actually, there's been a small study by EGA, but it was small, and I don't think it's indicative enough. That's a great initiative. So then what could you say that we can do differently, and maybe can we find a way that we work together to both the LSPs and the translators' interests? How can we redefine that narrative that makes things work better? And I would like to ask the first question that I asked about LSPs before. I would like to ask that again to see if any feelings have changed while you're both answering that question. So can we have the Slido poll again, please? Belén, over to you.
What can we do differently? So I think one thing on the LSP side that we can improve is change management, because sometimes all these transformations, evolutions, technological changes are also not discussed or agreed with our talent that work with us. And that has very negative consequences in implementation, in trying to get the best out of the workflow, and so on and so forth. If we really don't understand the needs of the end users of the technology or the workflows that we're implementing, and we just go with it, there will be, rebellion, people won't like it, and so on and so forth. So I think we can be much better at change management in our industry. That's one thing, because change is inevitable. Sorry, guys, no one likes change, but it is what it is. And then the other thing, I think, thinking short-term versus sustainability, I think it's also important, because in the recent events in the last couple of years, because of Gen AI and LLMs, most LSPs are thinking short-term and also reacting out of FOMO, or fear of missing out, like, I need to put AI somewhere in my website, and I need to tell my clients that we are doing AI, because otherwise you're left behind. And it is true, it's a reality as well, because that's what customers are expecting and what the industry is expecting of us. That is great, but when you build solutions so quickly and so not well, thought, the consequences can also be negative. So it's short term. And also business models like, we can be now data analyst or data whatever, or curating data, okay, but what happens when we have enough data of good quality and now the machine does everything great, right? So this is a more short-term thinking, and how can we reinvent ourselves as an industry and as professionals, because I feel like if freelancers are suffering right now, the price pressure and the working conditions and so on, it will also impact the LSPs down the line. And maybe the timelines are different, but we will all suffer the same consequences, just at different levels and different timelines. So I think we need to work together. We need to speak about what future do we want, what type of solutions we can bring, what is the new value proposition that we as language professionals have as an industry. And I think we need to do this together.
Well, just being here together today, I think is great. As a lonely subtitler freelancer, it's great to be invited to these things. There are things I think we can do fairly quickly. We talked, within the associations, we've talked about collective bargaining, and it might be that is the way forward to be able to keep the prices a little bit higher, or at least for them not to go down, if we can. But we need the LSPs to come to the table and discuss this with us. So when we send an invitation, we need them to say, yes, we'll be there, rather than, well, I'm not the right person, I don't know who you should speak to, or not get a reply at all. And that's one thing that we do struggle with, getting the LSPs to come to us. Another thing is, when it comes to contracts, the contracts are sent out to all the freelancers, and they sit there on their own and they read it, and it's lots of words that you don't understand, and they're told that if you don't sign it, you won't get any work. So what do? Well, you sign it, or you go to your association and you say, look, I got this contract, it's really complicated. It says here that I'm not allowed to share it with anyone, so I don't know if I'm allowed to show it to you, but I'm going to do it anyway. Can you help me? And what we've seen lately is that we're losing rights that we already have. So we have American end clients saying that you don't have the right to put your name at the end of your subtitles. But yes, we do. So we need to get the LSPs as well to understand exactly where we stand, and especially in Europe, we have great laws for this. And when you're selling your subtitles on as well, that we keep the right to a fair and proportionate remuneration. We don't get that at the moment, so we're going to continue fighting, but with your help, and also with the academics on our side doing the research. I think that's how we can continue and look at a better future.
Thank you both. I would like to take some questions from the floor now. I think this together notion is a good point for me to do this. Can we also have the third Slido poll? I would like to start by asking a question to the audience. How do you feel about the future of the translation profession? Just say so in a couple of words if you think it's sustainable or not, so we can form a nice word cloud. What stuck with me actually is what I was reading on Slater the other week about how they came up with this new term, translation as a feature. Because now wherever you have an LLM, you'll have translation. So our profession is going to be commoditized even more. So we do need to do something about it and redefine a value proposition. Okay, I see a lot of anxiety. Okay, so who would like to ask a question from the floor before we move into Slido? Marina, thank you.
I have a slightly nasty question, but since we are friends by now, I'm going to ask it. A question to both Tina and Belen. Tina, you said that translators don't like doing MTPE, and I would challenge that. I used to, in my previous project, I was managing a translator community, and what I noticed that there is a very small proportion of translators who are obviously very happy doing MTPE, and even though they were a small percentage of the entire community, they would deliver most of the content, most of the translations, so say 5% of translators would be very productive, very happily embracing MT and delivering 60% of all translations. And from my point of view, they were undermining the very essence because they had hyper productivity. Some of them would translate 8,000 words per hour, which almost feels like cheating. So my question is to you, what do you feel about them? And to Belen, what do we do with those translators, or what would you do with those translators from a vendor management point of view?
I absolutely see the point of post-editing if it's a text translation. I don't see it when it's subtitling. It might work for some languages. It doesn't work for others. That's one thing. So, yeah.
And what is the problem with the hyperproductivity for?
The problem is that they do not deliver very good quality, thereby polluting the translation memories, thereby causing the good and conscientious
they
translators.
Were genius and they were doing this and they were doing it properly.
No.
Okay. No, that's, of course, I mean, I think from a vendor management or LSP point of view, you need to have some benchmarks that are realistic based on data that you have from your trusted translators or post-editors. And if, you know, someone goes very above or very below that threshold, you need to talk to those people. The ones that are super slow, maybe they are not good post-editors, and then maybe you don't want to have them because they won't make enough money with their productivity. And the ones that go above your benchmarks, you need to evaluate their quality, and if they are not doing it properly, well, I'm sorry, but I'm not sending you any more post-editing, or maybe I give you another chance, and then I think that there is the common sense thing that I was saying at the beginning that we all need to have, no matter what. But yeah, there are quality programs on the LSP side to make sure you also have, depending on the tool, you can set thresholds, like you at least need to be editing X percentage of a text in order to deliver it and things like that. So there are mechanisms, but yeah, quality management is very important there.
I also think that there are subtitlers out there that are new and inexperienced who find that post-editing is fun. But if if you've spent 30 years crafting subtitles, being the one to decide the timing of the subtitles, and you had to taste every word that you put on the screen, and you put your name on it at the end, and your name is your brand, so you have to deliver quality every single time, because then you're the one at the top of the list that they're going to ring next time or email next time, then you don't want to be doing post-editing. But I'm not saying that I will never be doing it. I'm saying I don't want to do it.
Thank you both. I think we should take a question from Slido. There are several. I really like the one that talks about how we need to be talking about our USP differently from the past, given the competition with machines. I personally see us in charge of communications in a Star Trek universe, but I've told you my dream. Who would like to take this question? Either of you?
I can take it. I mean, that's an exercise that I think LSPs are constantly doing. It's not new. I feel like for LSPs to reevaluate what we do, our service offering, every time there are changes, but not only on the technology side, but also on how customers' needs are evolving for several reasons and so on and so forth. Now it's true that I see it as a turning point because of the hype of this technology, and it's true that it's evolving very fast and so on and so forth. So yes, we need to reevaluate our value proposition for sure, our service offering. But I would, like, what I would do today to be really innovative is to think that 10 years from now, translation is fully automated, ChatGPT, whatever works perfectly, AI dubbing is perfect, and so on and so forth. In that future, what is the value that we add as LSPs, as freelancers? Because I feel that there will still be services and needs that go beyond just labeling data or curating data and so on and so forth, because communication will remain human, culture will remain human, and how you connect with cultures to sell stuff, to connect with them at an artistic level, I don't think, like, there will be other services that we will be offering. And for example, things like UX testing, user experience testing of the products, or, you know, from a diplomatic perspective, is this text suitable for this country? Or there will be, I think our services will become even more human when the machines can do the just creating the text. And I don't think we are going away. I think there will be things, but I think we need to start about those services today. Otherwise, it will be difficult to be at the forefront of innovation.
How do you see the evolution of the role of a translator, Tina?
I'm a little bit concerned, I think. But what I've seen with a small language like Norwegian, so I use the internet a lot. I use Google a lot to find words, also to see, you know, how are words used in certain situations. And what I'm seeing now is this enshittification of the language. Most web pages now are machine translated, so I can't use it. And that is a problem. So I'm wondering if it's like a circle, and we might go back to where we were at some point. And also, if you're thinking you spent, I don't know, $300 million on the dollars on a feature film that's at the cinema, do you really want just automated subtitles for something like that? Or is there still room for some of us to be doing the high-profile stuff still?
I definitely want fantastic subtitles myself. Who does it if it is a different matter? Let's address the other question, because I don't think we have a lot of time left, about the business model. I think that's one for you, Belen. Several popular quality-oriented LSPs have crashed and burned recently. What does this tell us about the agency business model? And maybe, Tina, if you want to comment as well related to this, if you feel things are changing drastically because of, you know, for translators, because of what's happening with AI, as opposed to, you know, anything that was happening in the past.
Yeah, I think there are like many lessons to learn on the agency business model for sure. Smaller companies, small, mid-sized companies have more challenges to survive because you usually depend on less customers and things like that. You don't have that much of a diversified portfolio, so there needs to be a client that believes in you and wants to pay for a more boutique approach and things like that. But then there is this wonderful thing that we love in the LSP world, which is procurement. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but procurement, basically in a company, what they do is they organize these RFPs, requests for pricing, and from time to time you have to face those situations, and then you realize that your pricing is way above the industry average. So that makes that some companies crash and burn or go bankrupt because they cannot sustain the model anymore, and they have a model that is sustained on higher pricing and so on and so forth. But then you stop being competitive, and that's also a problem. I'm not saying those are like unicorns and angels that are doing everything perfectly. You also need to take responsibility, try to be more efficient, try to use technology, but in an ethical or better way to be able to be more competitive. So that's something that happens. And then for the bigger agencies, they also have, they can thrive as well because they have investors. I don't know if you've seen it, but many investment firms and so on and so forth have been putting a lot of money in the localization industry, and now even more on the language technology industry, and many startups and so on and so forth. So that makes our business more results-oriented and number-oriented, like based on financial results, basically. So the people leading the companies are not translators anymore sometimes, but they are investors or business people who care about the results, because that's what they are putting the money into the company in the first place. So I think these things like competitivity in the market, clients trying to, decrease the spend on localization sometimes, and then the role of investment firms and investors in our industry have impacted the business models for good or for bad.
Dino, any comments?
Well,
oh, sorry.
Yes. So if Dino can answer the last question, then we are...
well, what it means, all this upheaval means to us freelancers is that on a Friday, usually about 5 or 6 o'clock, you get an email saying, hello, happy Friday, hope you have a good weekend. We're no longer called this, we're now called this. And you need to invoice this person, and these are the people you'll be dealing with now, and it's all new again. So that's what we've been seeing in the last few years.
And a lot of consolidation, I assume. But I think since we don't have time, I will leave it here. There's a lot more questions actually that we could be answering. I will take away the together that you both said at the end of the last question. I think that should help with the anxiety, perhaps.
Yeah, please be
are
optimistic, really. We can make this work. We just need to think harder and collaborate closer, and we will evolve into something nice, I think, as an industry.
Please join me in a round of applause for our panelists. Thank you very much, both of you.